All right. Okay, that was unnecessary. In a couple of hours, I will see the Emerald Gladiators silver screen debut. But I'm going to talk about the Green Guardian's very first animated movie. That's right. I'm going to be talking about Green Lantern First Flight. And why I'm talking so dramatically, I cannot figure out. Alright. Basically, Green Lantern First Flight is the animated movie version of Hal Jordan's origins as Green Lantern. And I gotta say, they did this beautifully. It's like they took the old Silver Age comics and completely modernized them, but yet kept them very vintage, if you want to call it that way. You won't really know exactly what I mean by that statement. You kind of have to see it for yourself to understand what I mean. But they did it beautifully. Hal Jordan being an astronaut wanting to travel out into space. Abin Sur ends up landing. He ends up becoming the new bearer of the ring, and then eventually Tomari, alongside Kilowog and many other lanterns, actually find him and take him to Oa, where the Guardians were going to strip him of the ring, wipe out his memory, all of that stuff, because one thing that I think a lot of people who've watched the movie don't understand is that humans, those of us who live here on Earth, are considered to be very highly emotional. We would use our power rings out of anger rather than trying to be neutral and, calm and rational. I gotta be honest, as much as I would love to be a Green Lantern, I know that I would use my ring in retaliation. So I would not make a very good Green Lantern. But I'm rambling on as I usually do. Anyway, as time goes forward, he is paired up with Sinestro, who is the greatest Green Lantern. However, Sinestro has a bit of a cynical view towards the Guardians and their sense of justice. Sinestro believes that the galaxy should be ruled through fear, that the Green Lantern should be worshipped. Whereas Hal, even though he's a rookie, Hal Jordan believes that, ruling through fear makes you no better than the criminals that you chase. And it's this eventual thing when they find out about Sinestro's corruption, especially after many chases and investigations, and eventually Hal Jordan being framed for Kanjar Row, a very obscure Silver Age villain from the Justice League and all of these and many other leagues and heroes that he's fought against in the DC universe. When Hal Jordan is framed for Kanjar Row's murder, he then has his ring taken away, and there's this whole conspiracy. However, the one person that believes him is the person that did not trust him in the beginning, who was Kilowog. And eventually there's this whole subplot where Sinestro and a few other Lanterns were going to actually overthrow the Guardians. And it's when Sinestro is finally exposed, he has already went to the antimatter universe, went to the planet Quard, and talked with the Weaponers, who built what I presume now is Ranex, I believe it's pronounced Ranex, the moving city or something like that. I forget. I'm so terribly sorry to hardcore Green Lantern fans who have memorized every single fact. I for the life of me cannot remember the full name, but I believe that this is supposed to be an incarnation of Ranix, who is an enemy of Mogo. And at least that's the presumption, but pretty much Sinestro becomes by himself a single yellow lantern, and he starts destroying Oa, and even eventually destroys the power battery, and takes away all the Green Lantern's power, takes all their power rings, and starts basically ruling them all, including the Owens, through fear. And the only person left is Hal Jordan, who takes all the power of the central core battery and becomes, in a very subtle way, Ion, who is pretty much the embodiment of willpower in the Green Lantern universe. So in a very subtle manner, we kind of see other Green Lantern characters alluded to, but we don't really, they're not really called that, if you want to look at it in that sense. I'm rambling on, I'm sure I'm not making sense, but bottom line, you're going to see a lot of references, or at least different variations of stuff from the comics, that when you stop and think about it for a little bit, it's going to kind of make a little bit of sense. You'll be like, I didn't really think about it that way. But the final fight between Hal and Sinestro is nothing short of just purely awesome. And seeing the ending with all the core members, saying the oath, you can't get better than that. And with that, that is my thoughts on Green Lantern First Flight. Definitely worthy, and probably, in my opinion, the absolute best Green Lantern movie, period.